Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility. That's right, it's Wednesday, new review day here on the channel. We're back once again. It's going to be a busy day here on the channel today. Look who I've got with me in the co-captain's chair. My comrade in arms, I'm in the prog seat. Mr. Chuck Alvarez is here. What's going on, Chuck?
Greetings. Hello, good evening, everyone. And so, just quite stoked to be talking about today's album of review of the day. And so, Weather Reports, unbelievable, live in Berlin, 1971.
That's right. It's archival release from the great Weather Report. This is not the first archival Weather Report release
No.
I've heard over the last year or so. There's I don't know if you ever heard the one from Austria, which came out, geez, like a year ago. I don't know how official that was. That might have been one of those gray area albums, but also very good. But this is pretty incredible two-disc set from the early version of Weather Report. Chuck, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the lineup on this album. This is, again, Weather Report kind of labeled as a jazz rock fusion supergroup at the time when they formed, of course.
Well, this lineup specifically, and so this was the first ever, like this is the initial touring lineup, which was Wayne Shorter on saxophones, Joseph Zawinul on keyboards. You had Miroslav Vidos, who was still a co-leader at the time on bass, both electric and upright. And then you had a drummer at the time, had an amazing drummer. It's sad because as great as Alphonse Mouzon was, and so because we'll talk more about that as we go on to this album. But he had a few issues after this specific concert, and so which led to him being fired. But Alphonse Mouzon on drums, and then what's a long time percussionist Don Ramal. He's actually the percussionist on here. And most people if you've heard the initial first Weather Report album, it's a very spacey album.
Yes.
Which is very spacey, which are on the songs that were written by Wayne Shorter, you hear like this soulful jazz, psychedelic type of feel to them. And then with the songs written by Joseph Zawinul, very spacey and airy. And then you have Miroslav Vidos, who was basically a jazz man. So he was the one that actually was bringing the jazz timbre to the band at the time. But this one over here is an album that I was so excited to hear about when it finally came out. And so because I've heard this album, I've heard this album many times. Because I had it on bootleg. But the bootleg
I was going to say, I would assume that this has been kind of floating around there over the years,
It was a bootleg that I've heard that was taken from a radio broadcast, which at the time, and so it actually basically cut the last song Eurydice at about the 3-point mark. But like I said, that was a radio recording of these that I've heard. But this over here is absolutely pristine.
Yeah.
This is one of the best sounding live recordings that I've ever heard. Basically, well, it's 1971, and at the time, and so there was still no there was no Moog synthesizer that Joseph Zawinul wasn't a Moog guy anyway. I know that he was very big onto the ARP synthesizers that he started using back in like 74, 75-ish or so. But he was still using like the primitive synthesizers of the time and so, but he played it very well. For these sessions, and so they also had included 3 different musicians.
Yep.
Which the studio had asked if they could put them on there with them, and that was the state of contentiousness between between the drummer and them. And so because he basically, Alphonse Mouzon, felt that these 3 guys that were playing on there, John Sermon is a fantastic saxophone player. Then you have Jay, I forgot his name, and so you got to forgive me.
AJ Thelen.
Yeah, AJ Thelen, who's a fantastic trombone player.
Yeah.
but the thing is that you would never have heard of him before because of all the musicians that played with them. Because even Alan Skidmore, is very well known within the Canterbury scene and the jazz scene in the UK. These are three excellent musicians, but according to what I read, and so Joseph Zawinul really didn't want to have them on there. But when he heard certain songs being played, especially the songs that were written by Wayne Shorter, he felt that they brought a fullness to the horn sound, and he actually liked that. But technically, he wasn't crazy about it. But Alphonse Mouzon basically alienated them. And right after this tour, that's when I know that they John Sermon, if I'm not mistaken, played on I Sing the Body Electric and so, but by that time and so everything was over with them. But getting back to this album, a pristinely recorded album of some actually absolutely outstanding songs. I've always, like I said, I've known about these songs for a long time, but it starts off with a killer. The Joseph Zawinul, I Would Like to Tell, and then Early Minor are songs that became staples for him throughout the years. And then you have Miroslav Vidos's which a fine what's it playing bass playing on Firefish, and then there's a reprise of Early Minor, and then it gets into Sunrise, and that's when stuff starts cooking, man.
Yeah, Sunrise is great on here.
Sunrise is amazing. And then you have Mato Grosso Fiel. That's a song that that was part of the Bitches Brew. But they only named it on part of the sessions, and they called it Feo, which is Feio. But that version is just outstanding. If you ever heard, now, I don't know if you ever heard the Wayne Shorter version on the album, the actually aptly named album, sounds nothing like this. This over here is fleshed out. This was just amazing right here. Probably perhaps the best song on from the entire set. And then you have Directions. Directions has always been a cooker for these bands. So, and then then it comes on to the second side. Morning Lake is a beautiful song. Waterfalls is always
Yeah.
one of their best songs. Umbrella, Orange Lady, and then another staple of theirs, a song that they played throughout their entire career. Dr. Honoris Causa is that's an amazing version right there too. Then you also have Wayne Shorter's to close out Eurydice, and the studio version is pretty good. Actually, I think the studio version, the full length and so is pretty good. Most people are used to hearing the version that's on Live in Tokyo, but once again, you have and remember, this is not to take anything away from Eric Gravik. Eric Gravik was an amazing jazz drummer. But you hear these songs, it just seems like this band was on sync for this tour. And I say myself that this is an album that I could put up there with Live in Tokyo, and because of its jazz timbre and the early primitive stages of Weather Report's career. It's an amazing album. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and God, there's like so much we could talk about with this. I think, well, I mean, first of all, the lineup is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
To me, it's hearing Alphonse Mouzon in a live setting with this band is very, very cool. Although when you really think about it, Chuck, I don't know if this band was right for someone like him.
No,
because he's got more of a funky feel, and that's not really this band at this point in time.
Not yet.
But it's still very cool to hear him on here. I think Miroslav is incredible on this.
He was amazing.
He's just such a really great underrated bass player, and whether he's playing electric or whether he's on the upright, he's using the bow, he's doing all sorts of cool stuff. It's very, 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 very enjoyable to hear him on this. You were talking about Zawinul before, and basically this is before him really getting into synthesizers, because it's 71 for crying out loud. But I mean, this guy is all about the Fender Rhodes, right? I mean, his electric piano sounds are amazing. Shorter is great on here. I mean, John Sermon, for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with him, he played with John McLaughlin
Yes.
on the Extrapolation album, and they did another album together, which was just as close to free jazz at that point in time, I think, as you can possibly get. So hearing these other three guys in on this recording with them is very, very cool, but they fit right in. Like, it's not like you're hearing all these extra guys, you know. I mean, because you would think trombone in Weather Report, but it makes sense. It's not distracting. It's very, very cool. You know, man, disc 2 is just as hot as disc 1.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Orange Lady on here is incredible. Really, really good. For me, I mean, Sunrise is amazing. Directions is so good. Mono Grosso Fair was great. Man, Morning Lake is so good. The whole thing is really good. And the recording, like you mentioned, is pristine. One of the things that I noticed here, because I think for a lot of people, when they think Weather Report, they think much later stuff. They think the Jocko period, which doesn't sound anything like this. To me, when I listen to this live album, or any, you know, not maybe more this than the Tokyo album, and I think more this than the Austria recording that I have as well from Vienna. This to me sounds like an extension of Bitches Brew by Miles Davis. And you have to wonder, and I'm sure you'll probably agree with me, that Joseph Zawinul had more to do with the end result of Bitches Brew than most people give him credit for. Because so much of this sounds like that era Miles without Miles, basically. Right? I mean, it's just so many times, and maybe there's like a little less of the big heavy grooves, right? Because you know, you got a couple players on here that maybe aren't massive groove guys, but other than that, man, it's like you said, it's spacey, it's avant-garde, it's atmospheric, it's like adventurous and experimental. It's just, I mean, they're really going for it here. They're not worried about, like, later on, about the melody and the groove, and that's really what Weather Report were more known for later on. And songcraft, this is like a band just looking to explore and just kind of like take no prisoners. There's some ferocious playing on here, but it's very improvisational. So I will warn people, if you're not into fusion music that's very improvisational in nature, this might not be for you. But if you like bands that, you know, really just go for it, this is where it's at, and it sounds great. And I don't think we really talked a little bit about where it was recorded. So recorded live at the Haus des Rundfunks, Der Grobe. I know I'm butchering this here. Der Grobe, Sensal, Berlin, September 3rd, 1971.
Berlin, 1971.
Yeah, that's all I could say that makes any sense. But yeah, but it's great. You know, I'm assuming that's a snapshot of the gig, the show.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that if I'm not mistaken, that this is the actual this is the photo from the Berlin session from a few weeks prior. That's readily available on YouTube. I forgot the name of the session. So that's where that's from. This actual Berlin concert was actually filmed at a concert hall. That's why there's so many songs on there. But you know, once again, you know, you got to, you know, you have Joseph Zawinul and Wayne Shorter. You know, these are two guys that have helped define as far as compositions go, define what jazz would later become from the late 60s onward. You know, Wayne Shorter, you know, that was a true jazz man. You know, this is a guy that played with Art Blakey. You know, he played with he played with Art Blakey, you know, and then he went on to Miles Davis. And you know, all the songs that he wrote, you know, this is a man that had a true vision that was beyond what people can even see. Then you also have Joseph Zawinul. You know, we tend to think about his innovative keyboard playing, but he also was a great composer as well.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
And it seems like you know, despite Miroslav being this great phenomenal bass player, that he was overshadowed in this band, despite being a co-leader. You know, because you know, he also was a very tight to that composer, but you know, most of his songs that he wrote and so were relegated to, like, you know, he didn't really bring that much to the table. But you know, his skills with this band, man, you know, what's that? Most people tend to listen to just their earlier period, like Ken Golden. You know, I thank Ken for this album too.
Yep.
But I know that he says that he's very much with everything prior to from Sweet Nighter prior. You know, me, I happen to be a fan of Weather Report throughout their entire stages. And so, although, you know, it's a shame because, you know, we're used to listening to Weather Report, Weather Report, like during the Jocko years, but we tend to forget how great the post Jocko bands were as well. The compositions weren't as memorable on most of the case, but you know, but these guys, when they played live, they were just as amazing.
Yeah.
But you know, what's it? I'm very happy to be reviewing this album. You know, I can't say any more things about this album that haven't been mentioned between the both of us. But if you can get it, and so I think that is well worth it. But as Pete had mentioned, you know, this is a very spacey improvisational album. So if you're used to listening to bands like Mahavishnu Orchestra, that's very rock oriented, or you know, you have to the Return to Forever, which was a little bit more Latin based, and so and then they started to rock progressive rock afterwards. But Weather Report is one of those bands that you could still see, even in this age, is that they were ready to take on the world with their world beat, say so-called jazz influence over there. And this is a great album.
5 out of 5 star classic, would you say?
Oh, most definitely. You know, what's that guy? I've been talking about this album for years.
Yeah, it's good stuff, folks. Like I said, if you're into this sort of thing, this is a can't miss recording from the archives, and it's one to celebrate. It's quite good. It's quite good. So, Weather Report live in Berlin, 1971. Like I said, you should be able to get this anywhere, but for those of you who watch the channel and like to peruse lasercd.com, Ken's got it in stock, so go check it out. And this is on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together, all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. I want to thank Chuck Alvarez for joining me on this little review of this fine Weather Report live album. Till next time, I am Pete Pardo for Chuck Alvarez. Have a good one, everybody. It's all about Weather Report here. Go check it out and let us know what you think. Till later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.